Hey, everybody. My name is Carl James, and welcome to another episode of Can I Have a Word, the podcast that explores the importance of language and the impact it has on our identity and the people we become. No matter who you are, whether we want to admit it or not, we've all had moments where we felt nervous, worried, or downright afraid of something. Maybe a blind date, a big presentation at work, or a difficult conversation with a friend. Despite the nerves we feel, most of us hope that our will to succeed will be enough to carry us through. Or, as the saying goes, we just fake it till we make it. But does that always work? And what happens when you just can't fake it? How do you maneuver past life's tricky moments when your confidence isn't at its peak? On today's episode, we are going to explore how navigating uncertainty can lead to a unique outlook and life perspective. Joining me on the podcast today is someone who has grappled with these very same questions in her own life. And so I'm happy to have my friend, Sophia Jean-Marie, on the podcast today. Hey, Sophia, how are you?
Hi, Carl. I'm doing well. Hope you are too.
I'm doing great.
Fantastic.
So Sophia and I used to work together once upon a time, and we've been friends for a number of years now, so I know her fairly well. But for those watching or listening out there, let's learn a little bit about your background. And so I like to start every episode by asking my guests to tell me the story of your name. So where does your name come from? Does it have any particular meaning in your family or in your culture? Anything you want to share about your name?
Okay. So Sophia Jean-Marie, most of the time growing up, I pronounced it Jean Marie. I think actually to this day, I still pronounce it Jean Marie. I just think of the time period, it was just easier to pronounce it in the sort of Americanized version of it. It's also easier to spell over the phone because people understand the spelling of Jean. If you say Jean, they're like, what? What is that? I don't...
Sadly, that's correct, but I wish you didn't have to do that, but I know why. So
right. Same thing with Marie. So one, having to sort of deal with like my last name and how people receive it was one thing growing up. And another sort of tidbit about my name. It's my middle name, which is Gregory, but spelled with an I-E. So it's the French spelling of it. My mom said that she had a dream about the angel Gregory or some Catholic sort of either saint or angel when she was pregnant with me and decided to give me that middle name, Gregory. But growing up, I thought it was weird because it sounded like a boy's name. But now I kind of like it. I feel like my name is very unique.
Yes, it is.
It is very French, although I'm not. But yeah, I really like it.
Haitian by background, correct?
Haitian background, yes.
Okay. And where did you grow up?
Grew up in Brooklyn.
Shout out to Brooklyn.
Yeah, BK all day.
First time I've ever heard you say that, but okay.
Yes. I hear that you're, yeah. I'm a very big fan of Brooklyn. Grew up like East Flatbush and Mill Basin. Went to parochial schools within Brooklyn growing up. So a lot of religious classes and uniforms. But yeah, that's where I'm from.
Okay, great. So now let's get right into it. So Sophia, can I have a word? What is your word for today?
My word for today is anxiety.
Mm-hmm. Now, basic definition of anxiety, a feeling of worry, nervousness, or unease, typically about maybe an imminent event or an uncertain outcome. But how would you define anxiety?
I think the sort of everyday definition of anxiety is pretty much what you sort of laid out, what people experience, having to do a presentation at work or having to go on a first date, like you mentioned, is, yes, very typical of anxiety. But I think like people who have maybe the more clinical definition of anxiety, it goes like a step above that or a step beyond that. And I would say that it's more like disruption in emotional processing. Like you get an emotion and it becomes heightened despite your sort of rational sense of what you should be feeling in that moment. You feel more intense feelings.
Okay. So I'm sure listeners out there, whether you're, thinking about your own life, you're like, okay, well, I get nerves and butterflies in the stomach around some of the sort of everyday things. But what does that look like in a sort of in the heightened form that you talk about? So give me an example, and I would say maybe at its worst,
Mm.
what does your anxiety look like when it's in its most heightened state? What happens? How does it start? Where do you go?
I think it's a lot of things. So you're worried, like any typical person would be in a situation that might be high stress or would make you nervous. But then you also might have some rumination going on. So you're thinking about like the worst possible outcome, but it doesn't kind of just escape your mind. It kind of lives with you a little bit longer. Um, and then you're also trying to plan out to avoid the worst possible outcomes, regardless of whether or not those outcomes may or may not happen. You feel calmer or more assured if you've thought it through all the way, even if 50%, 75% of the outcomes that you're thinking through are maybe high likelihood of not exactly happening. Yeah. So that would be, to give a more concrete example, because that's very abstract. I would say if I was going to a party and I knew no
Great.
one at that party,
Okay.
I
Going by yourself to a party, or even if you're going with friends.
even if going with friends and say we're meeting at the party, but I know this is not my crowd. I've never really met these people before. I'm thinking to myself, okay, what time does this start? What time, if I really needed to go and I didn't feel like well being there, when can I reasonably leave or respectably leave without it being an issue? Who am I going to know that's there? What kind of, I don't know, conversations we will kind of have, just kind of some things to kind of start conversations in case there's a lull. Thinking through that a little bit, like maybe have 2 or 4 things in my back pocket just so that it's not like an awkward silence. And then, checking in with someone that is going to that party to ask, okay, what is the vibe? Who are the people there? Just so I get like a sense of what is this going to be like? And then going to the party.
Okay. So it sounds like you do a lot of prep, which is probably more than most people would do. But to me, that doesn't sound extreme. It sounds like, okay, I'm preparing for a situation that where I'm not sure what's going to happen. I might be a little uncomfortable. So let me have some things at the ready. So let's say we're now at the party.
Yeah.
How are we checking in with ourselves? Like, and when do you know this isn't going well?
The it's not going well is more of a perspective that I'm putting upon myself. Like either I'm not clicking with people, or I'm feeling awkward, or I'm feeling out of place. Conversation's not flowing. I don't know who to speak to. That is the quote unquote not going well. I know in the grand scheme of things, that doesn't mean that it's not going well. It just, I feel like I ran out of spoons. I don't know if you've known like that expression in terms of like mental health of like having enough spoons for the situation. It's like, I don't have the wherewithal at this particular juncture to continue with what I'm doing. So I'm going to bow out.
And that's regardless of what feedback you're getting. Or, like if you're telling jokes and people are laughing hysterically, does that cue in that like, this is going well? Or do you still feel like they're laughing to make me feel better?
Sometimes it could be laughing to feel better. I might think that. But even if it's not that, I then kind of feel like I'm walking a tightrope. Like you're on a tightrope, you're making your performance up there, 10,000 feet in the air, and you're going well right now. Now, if you do another move, you might tumble down. Best to leave on a high.
So we're never fully sort of like, we've got this. It's always sort of like at any moment, things could shift and maybe not go well.
Potentially. It's also, I think as I've gotten older and I've gotten better at like managing my anxiety, it's more of checking in with myself and realizing that the worst is not going to happen, that in the grand scheme of things, this probably doesn't matter, and that I'm probably taking things a little bit too seriously.
This party ain't that deep.
It's not that deep. It's not that deep at all. But it does then take a little bit of self-coaching. Like you're telling yourself these things so that you kind of realize you're okay and everything's okay. Not to like, and sort of in this analogy, making it somewhat like PTSD, but it's not. But you know, people who have PTSD and they're reliving a traumatic experience, they need things to kind of snap them out of that frame of mind. So where are they right now? What can they see? What can they hear? What can they feel? And that kind of snaps them out of that train of thought. So it's somewhat like that in I'm having a train of thought where this is not going well. People are not receiving me well. What can you do to interrupt that train of thought? And that can be coaching yourself through it and saying, no, these reactions that you're having are outsized. It's not necessary or needed for the particular moment, and you're fine.
Right.
And that checking in helps.
So it sounds like you've figured out how to sort of self-manage. Now, I'm curious, were you ever clinically diagnosed? And if you were, has the subject of medication ever come up, or is that not a thing you've explored?
Yes, I have been clinically diagnosed. And I've taken medication off and on
Does that help?
post-diagnosis. It does help. It does help. I think it helps to sort of calm the chatter, for lack of a better sort of analogy or expression. Yeah.
And are there times of the year when you become more anxious? Or is it just like an ongoing, depends on the day kind of thing? Is there any sort of seasonal sort of rhythm to it?
I don't think there's a seasonal rhythm to it. What is interesting, though, I will say, just as being a woman and every month having a cycle, that sometimes, that part, sometimes just before, it's supposed to start, you're, raging with different sort of hormones. And everyone, whether or not they have anxiety or don't have anxiety, that is a heightened emotional time.
Right.
So if you already are, predisposed to having hormones influence you on an emotional level, which I am, then yes, it's going to throw you for a loop. Does it every month? No, but then not every cycle is exactly the same, So yeah, I would say I've noticed a pattern of more often than not towards the end of my cycle, yes, but on an annual sort of basis, no. I would say certain situations, if public speaking, speaking in front of, a group of people, whether that be a stadium, which I've never really been in a stadium. I was my high school valedictorian, so I did have to speak in front
of and
a
how
crowd
did we
of
do?
people. I think I did well. Do I know what,
do you remember what you said?
I wrote down what I said and I read what I said. Do I believe that I was in my body at that time?
Probably not.
Probably not. I was not in my
But you got through it.
But I got through it. My heart was beating in my ears. That is all I heard, was the sound of my own heartbeat in my ears.
That's a nerve-wracking. I think that would be one of those moments that anybody would probably be feeling sort of a heightened level. But I get it, particularly for you. But well done.
Yes. But yes, got through that. But then there's also work. You have to do presentations at work, especially if you're doing it to senior people that you're presenting or pitching something. That's a bit nerve-wracking. I think I've gotten a lot of at-bats, over the years. Yeah, baseball analogy. And because of that, those sort of at-bats, you sort of fine-tune what you need in that particular moment to sort of succeed and do well.
So if you found some success in the past with using medication at different periods of time, is there a reason why you don't continue to stay on it? Is it not good for you to stay on it? Do you want to get to a place where you just don't need it and so you try to wean yourself off? What is your sort of thinking around when you use it versus not?
Right. That is a very good question.
I try to come up with stuff,
I would say in part, I was younger. Did I have consistency of work or consistency of insurance? No, I did not. And so sometimes medication...
You didn't have 8-year-old insurance?
No, I didn't. So when you don't have the insurance or when it lapses or you're between jobs, because that is how America sets up its healthcare system.
That's a separate episode. Can't go there. But I hear you.
Right. So yes, there are times when, I couldn't. For now, I guess my thinking about medication is if it's helpful to use it. Now, do I think it is going to solve everything? No. I think you still need coping mechanisms. ways of being present in the moment, being mindful, being in your body, being able to know what triggers you and what you need, whether that be like physically what you need, I need a moment to just kind of rest, or what you just need mentally, a moment outside of this situation, thinking about something else or doing something else that I enjoy. Those things I think are long term the most beneficial. And I think the most beneficial for everyone, regardless of whether or not you're struggling with anxiety, something else regarding mental health, or just in the world, in America. I think all
Oh
of those
boy.
things
Oh
can
boy.
help you.
All of the things.
All of the things, yeah.
So it sounds like you have really sort of cultivated a methodology that's in a process that works for you. I'm curious, what is your, I'll say, relationship to your anxiety? Meaning, yes, you've got your process for doing things and it seems like it's working. Does it frustrate you? Does it motivate you? Do you feel like it's held you back? Does it inspire you in some ways? Like, how do you sort of embrace or not your anxiety?
Another good question.
Someone did their research.
You are on a roll. On a roll, sir.
I didn't pay her to say it, I promise.
It's a little bit of those things, possibly all of those things. Sometimes it is a sort of evil doppelganger that is in my life that's taking over my body. It looks like me, it talks like me. But is it acting the way that I would want to act? No. So that's where, evil doppelganger. Other times I think it has been frustrating, especially in moments when I might look at my peers and they seem to just like things are just easier for them, or they can manage a situation and what appears to be easy because I don't actually know what they're going through. Even if they were to kind of tell me their thought process behind something, sometimes that gives me a little bit more insight. And I think, oh, that seems so straightforward for you. And it wasn't as straightforward for me, that I went this very weird, circuitous route to get to a place that was half good in my eyes. And yeah, that can be very frustrating. I will say that it has helped me to be a better, like a more empathetic person.
Say more.
Because day to day, when I'm interacting or doing things with different people, I've gotten feedback from different people where it's like, oh no, you're great. You seem super confident. Everything is fine. And I'm like, what? This is the farthest from the truth.
I was just going to say, I hope people are taking this in because I know Sophia quite well. And she sits here and she gives you these lovely answers. And it sounds like, did she rehearse this? Like, how is she? Like you, and I've always said this, that you seem like when you show up and you present and you deliver, like no one can see all of the stuff that may be going on the inside. And that is the case for most of us. Nobody knows what's going on the inside. And so it's fascinating to hear you talk about this thing that you obviously have been dealing with for a very long time that no one really ever sees. And it doesn't appear like, I only know it because you tell me and I'm supposed to believe it because you said it. But I still am waiting for the moment where I'm like, oh, that was clear. I mean, I have seen it in like certain social settings because I know you now, but most people don't see it. So.
Right. And actually, that's been helpful to me to realize that most people are not paying that much attention.
Oh, no one cares.
No one cares.
No disrespect. No one cares.
And that's a helpful mantra, actually. The mantra of like, no one cares.
No one cares.
It's perfectly fine. So yeah, I would say that people don't see it. It's kind of like a swan or a duck in water. They look beautiful on the surface.
That's such a lovely image.
I know. They're beautiful on the surface. You see all the feathers, they're gliding, they look majestic. Underneath the surface of the water, paddle, 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 paddle,
like
paddle.
just trying to keep it all afloat.
They are frantically trying to keep everything afloat. I would say that I'm like a swan in that respect. So yes, I might come off as more put together, but there was work that happened behind the scenes to help me be that put together version of myself.
And you do realize there are so many worse animals than a swan. Like, just saying.
Yeah.
Like, you're already at a really great level if you're a swan. So again, what you're doing clearly seems to be working, but I know it's a process that you've cultivated over time.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, do you feel as if there are either added challenges or nuances to your experience living with anxiety as a Black woman in particular? Are there things that maybe you feel make that another level of like, and that's something else that I have to sort of like grapple with on top of the anxiety I already feel?
Yes. Just
I'm shocked. Thoughts?
one, if you, as a woman and also a Black woman, if I am frustrated or if I am angry or if I am not poised and put together with certain audiences, that could be misconstrued in lots of different ways. My frustration or anger in a particular situation will potentially fall into the trope of the angry Black woman, which I don't want to come across as, especially in a corporate environment, which we've worked within
Oh, yes.
a corporate environment. So yes, there's that. There's also just navigating like microaggressions or things that are happening day to day. You're asking yourself, is that because of me? Just like me, the person, that someone has reacted a particular way or said a certain thing? Or are they alluding to something regarding my race or my skin color? Am I making it up? Because I'm already the type of person that
Who
is
is predisposed to like thinking, oh, I did something or something I'm doing is causing this.
exactly. And so then is it real? Is it imagined? Is it somewhere in between? There's so many layers of and nuances to what's happening, depending on the environment you're in or who you're speaking with. And I'm already juggling a lot. So to add that extra sort of layer of complication is frustrating. And for other people who maybe have a clearer insight into their own emotions, from moment to moment and more, I guess, control over it, I can't imagine like how they're feeling, what they have to sort of deal with too. Like we're all dealing with it. We're all trying to manage it and we're all doing it in our own sort of ways. I'm doing it with anxiety, but that maybe it's someone else that has a physical ailment that also has to deal with it, or someone that has like something that's maybe more debilitating from a mental health perspective that they have to contend with in addition to contending with their race day to day. All of this is complicated for everyone. So
Right.
I still kind of go back to trying those techniques of being present and being in the moment and trying to see what do you actually feel and how best you want to represent yourself in that moment, how best you want to react in that moment to kind of figure out the next steps. Is that going to solve everything? No. But then I could just call you up, Carl, and I can tell you such and such said this to me, and we can have a whole chat
And
about
we'll
it.
talk about it and I'll
Yeah.
be like, that's not you.
Yeah.
Or
Mm.
perhaps it was you.
Yeah.
But there's a way to sort of like filter through like the possibilities without going down the rabbit hole of like, it's all me, it's all me, it's all me. And,
Yeah.
which, that's kind of what you rely on your network for, your community, whoever that is for you.
Exactly.
So given where you are, what are your, I'll say, goals for the future in terms of, again, it seems like you've gotten to a good place. Obviously certain days are better than others, but where do you hope to get to in terms of like where you are with your anxiety? Like, I want to be able to do X and not have Y reaction. I don't know.
Um,
How do you think about that?
I think just personal sort of goals, yes, kind of relating to anxiety, but just general goals for myself would be stepping outside of my comfort zone a little bit more. And
For example,
for example, I don't know.
you should have known I was going to ask you for
I
an
know
example.
I probably should have known that.
Like, do you know me?
Maybe networking a little bit more or going out to functions, events where I don't know anyone. Maybe going there by myself and seeing what comes of it. Maybe there's an opportunity for, if not just expanding a sort of social circle, expanding my, network from a career standpoint. So yes, I would say stepping outside my
Trying
comfort
those
zone.
things.
Trying those things. So one, yeah, stepping outside of my comfort zone as a personal goal. And then outside of that, I think feeling my feelings, which sounds very simple, but not always. Because one of the things with anxiety is the avoiding of feeling. The feeling is so intense, it's so big, it's so negative. You don't want to feel it. So let me avoid feeling it. But if you um, think that there's a monster in the closet, the more and more that you just, think about the monster being in there, the bigger that monster is going to get.
Right. Just
the
gross.
scarier that monster is going to get. It's better for you to just open that door, take a look inside, and realize there is no monster in there.
Love that for you.
Yeah.
I think those are all um, achievable goals and things that feel practical. Certainly the sort of day to day, like trying new things and being more comfortable with like stepping into unknown spaces, I think obviously can feel scary. And I know we talk about this a lot because it's something I try to do as well. And even though I don't necessarily have the level of anxiety that you have, I don't love certain social networking aspects. And I'm trying to be better about that myself. So I think regardless of where people are on the whole, like I feel super comfortable with this or not as comfortable with this. I think that idea of just trying to show yourself a little grace and like be like, it's going to be okay. Even if you don't nail it the first time, you'll get through it and it'll get better over time. But taking those steps, I think, is really critical.
Right. Like you said, even if it doesn't go great the first time, being able to sit with failure or an outcome that was unexpected or unsuccessful, I think that is also progress. Because a lot of times the planning and thinking about what I should do in the future is around the idea of there is some way or method of having an ideal outcome that this is going to work. All I have to do is think through it enough and I'm going to find this ideal
Oh,
outcome.
that's so cute that you thought that. No, that's
No,
not how
but
it
it's
works.
not true. Exactly. It's not. It's not at all.
If I think it really hard, it's going to happen.
It's going to happen. So being able to sit with a negative outcome of like, I tried my best and things just didn't work out.
Right.
And being okay with that, that takes work. That takes work, I think, for a lot of people.
For a lot of people. And knowing that it's not just you, because I feel like oftentimes we think like everybody else put in their work and their outcomes turned out differently. I put in work and my outcomes didn't.
Yeah.
We all sort of do that sort of like grass is greener. It works better on the other side kind of a thing. But we're all struggling with that. Certainly. I mean, I complain to my therapist about that all the time.
Right. So it's the same thing. That is essentially feeling a feeling. You're feeling the feeling of disappointment when things don't turn out the way that you want, but feeling it all the way and not letting it become this gigantic sort of, beast on your shoulder, holding you down and telling you, don't try again because it's only going to end up exactly like it did the first time. Like that is not what helps you. What helps you is sitting down, feeling that disappointment, learning from the disappointment, thinking about what you could have done better, but not in a way that is putting yourself down, but as a sort of learning experience, because we all can learn from any experience that we have, be it positive or negative.
Right. So last question is really just an open question because we're really trying to sort of demystify some of the things that we bring up on this podcast. And so, with anxiety, there are people who have some understanding of it and people may not have as much of an understanding. Is there anything else that you think people listening, watching should know, might want to know about those who are living with it and people in their lives that they may not even know who have it, but a tip or something that could be helpful to those who are sort of trying to navigate this sort of tricky terrain?
I would say one, checking in with your loved ones or with your friends and seeing how they're doing, especially if it's something that they're not being themselves, or they're being, say, they're showing signs of stress. Checking in, seeing what they might need in that particular moment. but more so that you never really know what someone is going through, what is going on in their mind, what they might be struggling with, and giving people the sort of space and grace to be themselves, to potentially fail by, one person's particular standards, that they may not be doing things the quote unquote right way or the best way, but maybe they are in effect trying, and having that moment to have a conversation with them, seeing where that's kind of coming from and knowing where to go from there. So we never know. I think a lot of times we as people can feel slighted or feel that someone has done something to us because of us. But sometimes it's not at all personal. They're going through their own thing.
Ugh, let's not even
100%.
go there. But yes.
Right. They're going 100% through their own thing.
But you're making up a story that it somehow involves you. It's about you. You did it.
Yes. And it's not. And while we're having that story, that person's having a whole other story
That
going
does
on.
not involve
That
you.
doesn't involve you. So taking that moment, checking in, realizing that maybe that's me coming up with this narrative. What's going on with them? They did something and it seemed out of character, or it seemed like maybe not the best thing for them to do in that moment. Hey, what's happening? Is there any way that I can sort of help you, or just kind of kickstart a dialogue? Because I think it's hard to have conversations around, I think, anything regarding sort of mental health.
Yeah.
People, they struggle kind of in silence. They don't share with other people. And it's hard because there's not this, easy solution that a friend or a family member can offer up.
You can't fix it.
You can't fix it. So really what it is just to be supportive and to just be present.
Keeping the door open. I think, I try to do that as much as possible, as much as I like to believe that like I can help you solve. I can't. But I can be a sounding board. I can be, a comforting ear. But I think that point is really valid just in terms of like making sure that there's dialogue there, because you never want someone to feel like they don't have an option to talk to you or someone. And so again, for anyone listening, watching, this is a really important conversation. So I want to thank you, first of all, for coming on the podcast. Obviously, I know this is not easy for you to do as you are presenting and doing things that may be slightly out of the comfort zone. But again, I think you nailed it, but I knew that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
But I think this is a really important conversation and topic. And so for anyone out there who may be experiencing any of the things that Sophia referenced or some version thereof, I think please check in with someone you feel close enough to or feel comfortable reaching out to, or seek out, a clinical professional. I don't think we talk enough about how anxiety shows up. And I think we kind of just dismiss it in some respects. And so hopefully this will get people thinking and hopefully talking a bit more. So thank you for sharing, Sophia.
Well, thank you for having me. This has been great.
So I think we're going to leave it there for today. Thank you, everybody, for joining, and I'll see you on the next episode. Take care.